What's up?
What's up?
My name's Osagie.
And my name is Krys.
And this is Prophetic Foolishness. Welcome back. Welcome all.
Yes, sir.
Hello, hello, hello. If this is your first time tuning in, my name, like I said, is Osagie. This is my good friend Krys, and we are Prophetic Foolishness. First and foremost, we have to give a shout out to our very loyal, very faithful people, the Prophetic Foolishness family. What's good to you? Whether you listen to this in your car, in your living room, on your way to work,
watching on YouTube,
you know,
whatever it is.
You put it on right before the kids going to bed, and this is your treat to yourself. We say welcome to the PF fam. Thanks for rocking with us. Always faithful, always friendly, Prophetic Foolishness fan. And if this is your first time to the podcast and you're wondering, what did I get myself into? What am I even listening to? I say this again, we are Prophetic Foolishness. And what do we do here, Krys?
Here, this is Prophetic Foolishness, where we talk about uncommon topics that might engage with the common person and give them a space to challenge societal norms.
That's what we're here for.
That's it,
man. Listen, so as you've been tuning in or you've been rocking with us, you know exactly what we do here. We're going to challenge the societal norms. We're going to talk about topics. We're going to have delicious dishes of discussions because we keep our ears to the street. And we're going to talk about what's hot.
We are.
We're going to have it. We're going to challenge it. You might never have heard it challenged anywhere else, but here at Prophetic Foolishness, faithfully, we're challenging societal norms.
We are.
We got
100%.
to talk about it.
Got to talk about it.
Got to talk about it, my boy.
Man, we got something very relevant today.
Very relevant.
Very current.
Very current.
Man, it
is what it is.
It's hot off the press.
It's hot off the press. Listen, guys, this is very relevant and very, literally just took place. So we definitely wanted to, even as me and Krys were talking and preparing, we actually, during our lunch break today, Krys came over, got a little workout in, and, me and him were talking, and that's essentially how today's delicious dish of discussion is served to you.
Yes.
Also, to remind you, today's episode is sponsored by nobody. So if you want to sponsor us, feel free to email us at propheticfoolishness@gmail.com.
Come on.
To sponsor us. So we have no sponsors. It's just me and Krys here.
It's just
sponsoring
us.
our own selves.
Using our own funds
our own money
to bring you these dishes.
But to get today started, man.
Yeah. What's going on?
Krys, I'll tell you. So earlier this morning, it has been all over the news, all over the internet.
All
what
over
took
Twitter.
Place. Yes, literally all social media platforms. You can't have missed it unless you are living under a rock.
Yep.
So recently what just took place was, if I'm not mistaken, like a week or some change ago, Sha'Carri Richardson, who is a 100-meter sprinter.
A 100-meter specialist. Yes.
Recently graduated from LSU, was now a sprinter who actually qualified, had the fastest 100-meter time.
Yeah.
For out of the women for the U.S. qualifying, thus qualifying her for the Tokyo Olympics as like one of the 100 runners representing the USA.
Yeah, a favorite to win it all.
I mean, her fastest time, if I'm not mistaken, was a 10.75.
10.7. I mean, she was.
That'll get some D. That's a D1 men's track scholarship.
That is a great time. Yes. I mean, the fastest I ran was only a 10.8. I'm kidding.
No, but that's the crazy thing is like that time is like very on par with some D1 men's track programs.
Yeah. I mean, she crushed the competition.
Yes. So everyone there's so much rave about Sha'Carri, her being so talented, her being so young, and what she's able to do at the level she does it. Also, Sha'Carri has a lot of swag to her.
Yeah,
she really is like unapologetically her.
She's an easy person for the fans to love.
Easy person. So she's a fan favorite. Everyone rocked with her. So when the news came out, it was definitely heartbreaking. So what took place was Sha'Carri, she decided, or what came back was Sha'Carri tested positive for marijuana in her system.
My goodness.
During or right before.
On the day of the race, maybe, or something like that.
Close enough to where it now disqualifies her from running. It's like a month ban.
Yeah.
Thus now disqualifying her
from the 100-meter event in the Olympics. Which is crazy. And I've seen so many people's reactions to this news given that she has in the past months risen to the heights of stardom.
For sure.
Height. Hey, she's high up there in terms of social status.
You're a trip, man.
But yes, and so everyone's paying attention to this. But I was most interested in kind of hearing the thoughts about, hey, like, why did she do it? And she even came on the interview and said, yo, I knew what the rules were, and I still chose to smoke weed anyway, which is just really surprising.
True, because I mean, literally, we see so many stories, especially for track runners. Like, you spend, especially I think for this people, because it's been 5 years since the last Olympics because of COVID. It was supposed to be last year. You spend so much time preparing to run for one of these.
This is what you're gearing up towards.
Like 4 years for 10 seconds.
And so it's almost crazy to even think that she would risk the moment with something like just marijuana.
And for context as well, Sha'Carri came out. One, she owned her situation. She said she made the choice. But also, 4 weeks prior to Sha'Carri running in the trials, her biological mother had passed away. So she said this was a means of like coping or like dealing with that. And she knew, like, to your point, quoting, she knew what it was, and she's still a human. She just like she was saying she just made a mistake.
She's made a mistake, was trying to cope with the death. And it's so crazy to me because, like, you know, she's trying to cope, and I'm thinking, like, okay, so she smokes weed. Why is weed considered, or marijuana, to have the technical term, considered, you know, illegal or banned substance by the Olympic Anti-Doping Committee, you know? Yeah,
it's really true. Like, there's so many, I think it goes into, like, our question for today is, like, who decides what drugs are acceptable? You know? Because, to your point, the Olympics, like, in Oregon, I don't think...
it's recreational use of marijuana is legal.
It's so weird because, like, we're getting to a place, it's 2021, where marijuana is like recreationally legal and medically in certain states.
In a lot of states. I know recreational US. Maybe like, or at least the legal use of it in like maybe 19, 20 states, something like that.
It's gaining popularity, you know? But like my question is like, who decides this, you know? Because the hardship of it is like, you see, you know, in any, let's take alcohol, right? There are still, I mean, we in Texas. I think there might still be some dry counties where you're legally not able to sell alcohol
in that county.
Because historically there was, you know, I think called prohibition era, where people were making moonshine because alcohol was deemed an illegal drug. You know,
and back then, I guess that was in the 1920s. The U.S. government decided, yo, alcohol not good. We're gonna ban it.
We're gonna ban it. You know what I'm saying? And they deemed that not good. Now, fast forward 100 years later, 2021, alcohol is not deemed as a societal, like,
faux pas.
Exactly.
Right.
Great word, Chris.
No, appreciate you.
Great word. You know what I'm saying? My boy, y'all know he got 2 degrees now.
my intellect is high. You know what I'm saying? I have a high IQ.
And he's on no substance.
Yeah, substance here, I'll tell you.
But like how alcohol has been deemed like acceptable, and like most people, I guess, for the most, I mean, there are people who choose not to drink, but I think there's far and few between people who would actually deem it like, hey, alcohol is like
intrinsically bad.
Bad drug.
Bad.
You know what I'm saying?
Anyone who uses it is bad.
Yes.
Whereas I feel like a lot of times marijuana does have that stigma.
Exactly, because we're still in the middle. We're not so far removed from the days where, you know, we had you grew up, did you have DARE?
Like,
The DARE police officer
the DARE dog and everything.
And the DARE dog, and they're like, hey, Jimmy, you want to come over and smoke this pot?
Yeah.
And it's like, the DARE dude's like,
just say no.
Just say no.
Just say no to drugs.
Tell a parent. Run. Just say no, you know?
Yeah.
And so, like, that was our childhood, you know, very much so. So the stigma, regardless of where you land, like, I'm not here to debate if you choose to use it or not, but regardless where you land, you can acknowledge that the stigma for us growing up with marijuana was bad,
very bad,
very bad. Like, even it'll make you go crazy, whatever the case
yeah.
may be.
It'll lead you to be a dud.
Yeah,
you won't succeed in life.
You're
just gonna be this person who smokes weed on the couch.
Exactly.
Yeah, doesn't graduate high school.
Exactly.
Then you're gonna end up addicted to cocaine, and you're in prison.
It's a gateway drug. That's what they say.
It's a gateway drug. Yes.
And so you see now we have removed ourselves. Like, we're in 2021 where there are dispensaries.
Yeah.
There are
people making big
money
dollars on marijuana. Yeah.
Simple.
Marijuana. I'm telling you, hey, people are making which is crazy because years ago when the government decided that marijuana shouldn't be legal, they were locking people up left and right. You know how many brothers have been locked up on some marijuana charges? And now people profiting on it.
That's what blows my mind.
And they still locked up?
That's what blows my mind is that, like, people are like, oh man, like, why are there not a lot of, like, black people in, like, the dispensary business? It's like, well, they're all in jail. They haven't freed them.
They were in the dispensary
business.
business.
You know what I'm saying?
They were. I call them pioneers. The founding fathers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, like, they got locked up. And so now it's like, maybe from all the information or whatever the case may be, it's like, now there's, like, on the backs of those people, there's, like, these new dispensaries and all these different, like, organizations and even companies like, that are publicly traded that are behind this, and, like, people aren't freeing them. So, like, it's crazy that we've seen this before our eyes.
Yes.
We've seen the negative stigma slowly maybe be unveiled behind marijuana. Right? So, but you also see other substances that are, like...
That people don't... I think that there's so many other ways that people cope, other substances they use, or other even things that they use to cope that we just don't deem as like, hey, this is socially unacceptable, or this is like, you can't, this is illegal, or it's an illicit drug. Like, I'm thinking of, caffeine.
Caffeine
is technically a drug.
That is a drug, and people are addicted to caffeine.
Addicted to caffeine.
Like, can't operate without it.
You can't function. You can't cope with waking up early in the morning. You have withdrawal. You'll get the headaches. What else? I mean,
we had
alcohol.
Alcohol.
I mean, we already mentioned that. Like, that's a
sugar.
Oh
my goodness.
Super addictive.
Sugar sometimes is a drug.
Oh, it's people like will need a fix. I mean, even myself, after eating something salty, I want something sweet,
and your body gets used to it. Like, I don't know if you've done the Whole30 before. Have you ever done the Whole30?
I've never actually done it.
I've done the Whole30 before, and it's crazy how you realize, like, how addictive, like, sugar is a normalized drug that has negative health ramifications in the masses in which we consume it. Yet it has been socially acceptable as an ingredient.
I mean, alcohol is a plant derived. Typically, when you let it ferment, right, comes from potatoes or agave or wheat, corn, whatever alcohol you derive it from. But it is a drug. It gets you drunk. It has long-term health effects. But everyone seems to be okay with it.
So who decides it?
That's
my issue here.
Yeah.
Because essentially where we've come is we live in a society where it's like, whether you know it or not, the connotations behind certain drugs are kind of like fed for you. So, like, if someone was to put some sugar in their coffee, no one would blink twice about it. Yeah. But if someone put crack or cocaine and stirred it in their coffee,
put some crack in there, and be like, whoa,
get a little crack in your coffee. And
slow down, brother.
Legit, like,
crack in the morning.
Crack in the morning. It's only 5 p.m. It's 5 a.m.
Yeah.
But like, if they
bad
did
jokes,
that,
sorry.
You know what I'm saying? No, but legitimately, like, if they did that, people would freak out. So, like, who decides it for us? Because it's not off of a health beneficial thing. Because if it was what actually, impaired you or was health wise, then there would be a lot of, like,
if
sugar.
it was like, oh, let's only ban the things that are going to be detrimental to your health, or even let's ban the things that are really addictive. Yeah, like that. I don't feel like that energy from any of these people who are enforcing some of these rules. Like, I even think about social media, and I watched quite a few different documentaries that talk about the addictive nature that social media is. Wow. And how much dopamine is released every time you refresh your news feed, every time a like pops up, or every time, like even the way how they're organizing algorithms to pop up new content all the time, it literally keeps you addicted.
Yeah.
And you can even go, I challenge you, go on your phone right now, look at your screen time, or like I think there's this thing called like Pickup where you can see the first app that you pick up every time. Like people are addicted to phones and social media.
Absolutely.
But I mean,
it's totally normalized.
It's totally normalized.
Yeah, man. It's crazy because like these drugs aren't just substances at times. They can be things. Or like even like social media.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so I guess that's my question is, I think when we think of just like raw substances, right, you also think of like the opioid crisis, right? How opioid was just a drug that were being prescribed to people.
Oh, yeah.
And it was very normal. Like, people didn't call it a crisis until like, I think more recently. People are like, oh, the opioid crisis like is now we're realizing how like detrimental it was and whatever the case may be. But in the moment, people weren't going to jail for opioids. No, people were just getting prescribed and got really addicted to them. While the people who were going to jail, people were going to jail who got addicted to crack and going to jail for a long time. You know what I'm saying? Both two substances, one's maybe like marketed by the pharmaceutical company, and the other isn't. So like, why? I don't know. I'm trying to get to the root of it here. It's like, who and why is this deemed? What do we deem acceptable and not? You know, what's like
that's true.
Towards
I mean, because at the end of the day, a lot of people, and even in the case of Sha'Carri, like people are turning to a lot of these things sometimes, most of the times, as a way to cope with the negative things in life. You know, in Sha'Carri's example, is the passing of her mother. In a lot of other examples, people might just need to cope with a hard day at work. And so it's like, hey, it's 5 o'clock. Let me just have a drink to unwind. Or
a line.
Or
not for myself. But people literally do that. Like, I know people in like certain work industries where it's so stressful, they'll go to the restroom and do Wall Street. They talk about how cocaine in Wall Street runs rampant.
Oh, it's because, I mean, it's an upper, and so it keeps you really streamlined or really focused, really high. They work long hours. I mean, I saw it when I was in grad school. Some people using substances to be able to focus and kind of be really sharp and attentive in situations. So
that, I think it's just confused. I think that's why this question can kind of be so, it can feel like there's so many layers of it, because it's like, it's really kind of forced upon us on like what is acceptable,
what's acceptable,
not.
What's not.
Because someone's like, "Hey, I'm taking Adderall to focus." In school. People don't really like, oh yeah, you got prescribed, cool. But someone's like, hey, I'm taking crack. I don't know why I keep going towards crack.
But
like, it's a demonized drug. It's a demonized drug.
And there's Adderall is a good one because people call it Addy for short. It's like, yo, hey, you got any Addy? I really got a test coming up. People will do that all the time.
And even unprescribed. People are getting Adderall from their friends in college. Right. We've seen it. That's illegal drug use technically, so we're aware of it.
It is illegal drug use because it's not prescribed to you. But from a societal perspective, if you get caught with Addy, like, ain't nothing happening to you.
Nothing's happening to you. And so that's my confusion. It's like we allow certain drugs, and I think specifically, like, as we're talking about this, I'm starting to think that a lot of the pharmaceutical industry and the pushes, or the pharmaceutical industry might have a huge say on this, Chris.
They might.
I think they have a huge say on this because.
Why do you think?
Because I don't think, like, when drugs are introduced by a company per se, there's not a lot of demonization of it. Like, if they put nice commercial out with the white lady,
and they tell you all the side effects. Side effects are bleeding in the stomach.
The side effects, they zoom through that. But it starts off with like maybe someone who's having a bad day, whatever, or the guy who's sad. Then they take the drug, and then like the screen brightens up, and this is how the
music changes.
Yeah, this is how they introduce the new drug, and then they're like, side effects might include
including death.
Exactly. Please go to your and then they'll end with nice music, and that's how they're introducing a drug, right? So that's most times the pharmaceutical industry gets to control that narrative, while it's like there's no pharmaceutical industry that's like marijuana. You know what I'm saying?
In the past, no. Nowadays, like,
but it's already been demonized by culture.
Right.
There are these new drugs that come out that like people are very addictive. Like, like there's so many. There are painkillers that are like
so many painkillers that people get addicted to.
opioids.
And they're trying to what? They're trying to cope with pain in some way, and so they go to get these drugs and they use them, and then they end up getting addicted and just coping. You know?
Yeah, they're
which is
using
crazy.
like all these different arenas to do it. So I think even as we look at Sha'Carri Richardson's situation, it's like I think the general person, right? From my perspective or my take, it's easy to cope or it's easy to empathize with Sha'Carri Richardson and what she chose to do. Like it's easy to be like, hey, she was really down. Her biological mother had just passed away. So she chose to smoke marijuana. Was it right? Was it wrong? I'll let the viewers decide on that one. But you can at least empathize with that, and that's what she was using to cope. I think the thing that kind of just ran into Sha'Carri's and what made it so publicized and polarized is that her being a professional athlete.
Yeah, she's a runner. She's a track star.
Her being a professional athlete was what made this seem so negative. And I think it was the world doping whatnot.
The anti-doping administration or something like that.
So although she might not have deemed it bad, they had deemed that an illegal.
WADA.
They had deemed that a illegal substance.
They even called it a performance-enhancing drug because it can calm your nerves and all that kind of stuff.
Which is. Yeah, some people feel a lot of different ways about that. And I think the biggest thing what this is bringing about is like a conversation for a greater conversation being like, are we demonizing the drugs we should be demonizing? And if we aren't, how do we go about that process? Because it doesn't seem like it's a process that's talked about. I don't know. I'm not in the FDA, Food Drug Association, whatnot, but I feel like they make the decisions for people. And I mean, it's not like they're like, hey, we're standing on this. Like they switch, bro.
Yeah, they do. They do switch all the time.
They switch.
And even like your question there, are we demonizing the drugs that should be? Because, had she chosen to develop some kind of drinking habit and she had used alcohol to cope, I don't think there'd be any uproar.
Zero.
People wouldn't even. They'd probably be like, "Oh, yo, you might hurt your performance."
Yes.
They wouldn't even care about that she was using alcohol to cope with the passing of her mother. They'd be like, "Yo, like." You're an athlete, like this might slow you down. Think about that. And so it's just interesting. And I think this is part of the goodness of our podcast is that we can ask these questions and even amongst ourselves force us to think about why this stigma or this societal norm exists.
Yeah, because I mean, to be very honest, we've seen in a society where people have used prescription drugs and abused those. Like we've seen the negative impacts of certain drugs.
Yeah.
Yet a reason why I think that some of these drugs aren't taken off the market or deemed illegal or whatever the case may be is because pharmaceutical companies push these or back these, and there's so much money.
So much money at the end of the day.
So much money or so much regulation. There's so much money in the regulation of it, the distribution of it. And so it's like, while, opioids or painkillers or whatnot, like inherently maybe in themselves aren't bad, the abuse thereof them are bad, and we might see an uptick in it, yet they're not pulled from the market. Yet there's not like, they're not reconstructed to like do the benefit or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of crazy to see, like, it's sad because people like Sha'Carri are getting the blunt end of like a situation when it's really like Sha'Carri is just part of a bigger conversation that we should be having.
Like the whole system needs to kind of reassess. Like why are these standards in place? Maybe even look at each drug or coping method to say like, hey, is this healthy for us to encourage or should we discourage it? Should we go as far as to make it illegal and enforce it? All that kind of stuff. So
yeah, it does kind of blow my mind how we've gotten to where we are. I mean, now like genuinely, like what we weren't in elementary school that long ago, but like literally also another drug that has been kind of, I mean, I feel like our generation's kind of passed, or maybe it's shown itself, was nicotine.
Oh, yeah. We didn't even touch on nicotine. Yeah.
Nicotine, growing up, there were so many campaigns trying to, because, I mean, the lung cancer, all these different things of like what tobacco and nicotine was causing.
Cancer, all that kind of stuff.
There were so many commercials that was like, hey, this is so bad. This is like whatever. I remember even on MTV, it was like Truth, you know, and they were like, this is how many people died from.
And they would even go as far as like, hey, you can't actually even smoke in a public place. You can't smoke inside somewhere.
So much so
secondhand smoke.
So much so that I think the tobacco industry took a super hit because our generation, like, I mean, not to negate nobody, but like, for people who smoke cigarettes in our generation, there's definitely a negative connotation with it, almost like a disgust.
Yeah, you look down on them like, yo, like why smoke a cigarette?
Why are you smoking a pack? Versus before, I mean, people would have smokes after dinner.
Yeah,
you
they
know,
have. I mean, back in the 50s and 60s, it was you literally have a smoke all day,
socially acceptable.
Socially, any social situation, people were ripping cigs.
Exactly, but then people were realizing, hey, this is killing us. So now we're here. People are still, the funny thing is, hot take, is people are still addicted to nicotine. Yeah. I do think that maybe it's less people. It has just reshaped itself into like
vapes, jewels,
all these different things. It's cool now. You know, it's
supposed to be quote unquote cleaner.
Yeah, but it's all marketing, bro. Yeah. They've just like made these little cool pens look cool. And it's not like the light, you know, cigarette or whatnot, but it's just like, it's still nicotine and people are still addicted to it. Yeah. And it is socially acceptable. No one's going to jail for smoking nicotine. Nah. You know what I'm saying? But nicotine can literally kill you. It can. You know? 100%. And so that's, I mean, it goes to our general question again. We don't know who controls this stuff, bro.
Yeah, we don't.
Like, people just telling us what drugs are bad and what they're not. And we just be going with it.
We just go with it.
Like, if your doctor prescribes you, like, hey, I'm going to give you some hydrochlorothiazide or something, you know, something like that. Most times you're just going to go to Walgreens.
And you just fill the prescription.
And fill the prescription.
And that's it.
And that's it.
You take it for 7 days and done.
Legit. But if, let's say, you know, it wasn't demonized. They're like, hey, we're going to give you 500 milligrams of cocaine, and it's not demonized. More than likely, you're just gonna go fill that prescription. You're not gonna demonize it because it's like, oh, I can get it here. The demonization sometimes comes either by it's like the media kind of pushes it, or it being like deemed illegal.
It's illegal, and then therefore it's bad, or something like that. So it's super interesting. I think that y'all should have this conversation amongst you, especially as the world is reacting to. Sha'Carri in the news there. You know, is this something that needs to be changed or discussed from a Olympic committee level? Yeah. I mean, it's definitely shifting in the United States and in other countries. Yeah. So
I think it's important to your point, Chris, is if we don't have this conversation, you know, if we don't talk about it, sometimes we won't challenge societal norms and understand why. Yep. Why do we do what we do?
Why we do what we do?
Why are we subjected to the things we're subjected to, and we say okay to certain things we're subjected to? So to my family, Prophetic Foolishness fam, take this conversation and have it. Don't be afraid of it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? No one's going to think you're a drug dealer. No one's going to think you're an addict. Just have a conversation.
It's just a conversation.
It's a conversation.
We're not endorsing one side or the other. Yep. We're just saying, yo, you need to have this discussion.
Legit, man. Because, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much going on. We got to have the conversation so that when the conversation comes to us, we bring the conversation. The conversation don't come to us. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It doesn't just arrive at our table and then we're like, but sometimes we form an opinion or we form a conversation or a thought around the situation. So, man, y'all, thank you so much for listening. If you really rock with this episode and you're like, man, this was great, I'm going to talk to my friends about this. First and foremost, one thing y'all stop doing, share it to your Instagram story. That is how people come into the Prophetic Foolishness family.
It's how they get the news.
That's if you had a great clip that you're like, man, this is good, screen record it and post it on your Instagram story. Yep. We need the fam to continue to support us. Keep rocking with us. You can listen to us on YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify. Yep. Or it's not Apple Music, Apple Podcasts.
Apple Podcasts.
And wherever else you find your podcast. But continue, like I said, this is a delicious discussion. Hopefully you still have room on your plate to take it home and talk to your other people about it. But, man, we're going to continue to keep our ears to the street, bringing hot fire to you guys. It's going to be hot off the press, man. We're going to keep rocking with y'all if y'all keep rocking with us. Season 4, we still got a lot more heat for y'all, man.
We do.
Keep rocking with it. You got anything you want to say to people?
Shout out to John Daniels. He also helped us think about this conversation.
Then you put his whole government name out there.
I know, my bad, dog. If somebody looking for you, they going for sure.
All right, John Daniels, you getting a shout out, bro. We don't even be shouting out people. They think we come up with it all. But signing off, man. My name's Osagie.
My name is Krys.
And this is Prophetic Foolishness. Peace.